Hello everyone, and welcome to the definitive guide to Crash Mind Over Mutant glitches. This game is one of my childhood favorites, to the point that I have spent countless hours as a kid needlessly dissecting it to find every bit of content that I could. I decided to pick it up again recently, and after reliving some wonderful nostalgia, I was inspired to make a video to showcase all of the most interesting glitches that I could find. This should go without saying, but there will be spoilers, so if you haven't played this game yet, you've been warned. Well, without further ado, let's get to it! Rope Rematch. If you've played this game past the first boss, you should know that Titans are incapable of holding onto ropes. If you try to grab one while riding a Titan, Crash himself will grab onto the rope and let whatever bulky friend he's currently riding fall into the abyss. But what most people don't know is that if the Titan manages to fall on solid ground after you abandon it, such as on the seesaw found in the junkyard, they'll turn aggressive again, without being under the enemy's control. While in this state, Titans cannot handle even the slightest bit of damage. Simply jumping on their heads is enough to stun them and make them controllable again. This glitch can be performed with all starboard Titans except Rhino Roller, since Crash cannot grab any ropes while on one. Even the Titan heroes from the Uka Uka mission, who you can only fight once during normal gameplay, can come back for a one-hit rematch. So, have fun pitting Titans against each other in junkyard cockfights. You monster. Star Walker. This next glitch is pretty simple. Once you're a Cortex's space head at the end of the game, travel to this room and have a Titan pocketed. Usually, I just grab one of the stanchions that appear around the place, but it seems that any other Titan will work. Move Crash over to this location and then summon your Titan with the pocket button. Spam the jump button while walking forwards, and after a little bit, you clip to the ground and end up walking on space. Pretty cool, huh? Though there's not really much to do here other than appreciate the view, since if you walk too much in any direction, you'll fall to the floor and die. But it does make up for a cool visual. And hey, Stench's astronaut suit is finally being used for something. Titan stacking. This one is really easy to pull off, but it does require a little bit of timing. First, find any location in the game with 3 spawning Titans, then jack the Titan and immediately hop off its back. Wait about 5 seconds for a new Titan to spawn, and then get both players to jack the stacked Titans at the same time. Now, both Titans are occupying the same space. This glitch has absolutely no impact on gameplay, and it is also absolutely pointless. But hey, it's kinda cool to do, right? Cutscene Crasher. Find a location in the game set right before a cutscene trigger, and spawn player 2 in. Next, move the player who isn't tracked by the camera over to the cutscene's trigger, who in this case is Crash. Since only the player tracked by the camera can trigger cutscenes, you'll be able to completely bypass the trigger with the other player, and be able to interact with any objects or enemies present. In this example over at the desert, you can invade the Rhino Roller vs Corporilla cutscene, and beat the lights out of the Titans without them being able to react. Something to note is that if the player tracked by the camera drops out or turns into a mask after the other player has already bypassed the cutscene trigger, the cutscene won't activate unless you walk back to where the trigger is. Other than the obvious advantage of bypassing cutscenes, this glitch can also be used to easily rack up numbers for your combo multiplier, which can make leveling Crash and any other Titans up a hell of a lot easier. Flying Titans. Next up is what is, in my opinion, the coolest and hardest glitch you can perform in this game. This game has a lot of walking around, and I get it, it can get boring sometimes. But why would you walk all the way across the map when you could just fly everywhere instead? With this glitch, many of the platforming challenges and puzzles in the game become a complete joke to you. Just like the previous one, you need to find a location in the game in which an in-game cutscene will occur to perform this glitch. When you find such an area, you need to enter the cutscene and press R2 on exactly the last frame of control you have over your character. If you've done everything correctly, then you just wait for the cutscene to end and boom! You now have yourself a flying titan! The reason why this glitch happens is because whenever you enter an in-game cutscene, the game puts jacked titans in a state of flight, as to make sure they don't accidentally move around or die while the cutscene is happening. And then, they are turned back to normal when the cutscene ends. However, due to an oversight, you still have control over your character one frame after the titan has already been put into this flying state, which means that if you store the titan, they'll be able to bypass the trigger which turns them back to normal at the end of the cutscene, leaving you with a flying titan. As you can see from the footage, flying titans can attack, guard, use special moves, and even be stored and resummoned without losing their flight. You can even go to other areas of the map with your titans without them going back to normal. You can only really control your titans' movements across the XY axis, while their height is dictated by interacting with their environment. Going up a ledge will grant you upwards momentum, while hitting your head on a sloped ceiling will give you downwards momentum. And if you find yourself needing to use a normal titan later, don't worry. You can have both a normal and glitch titans at the same time without losing the glitch, and you can freely swap between them. Even if you die, your titan will still not lose its flight. The glitch also works perfectly in co-op. It doesn't matter what player summons a flying titan, it still won't lose its glitch state. And if you somehow manage to get two flying titans at once, you can freely swap between them and they still won't lose their flight. Every single non-boss titan in the game can fly, with no exceptions. Runner Roller in particular is a must-have flying titan, due to the absurd speeds it can reach, which can easily help you skip over several areas of the game. Sadly, there are ways to make your titans leave this glitch state. Namely, grabbing a ledge, jumping, entering a cutscene while the titan is out, and attacking with TK, Runner Roller, Spike, Snipe, Sludge, Grimly, and Stench. With Runner Roller, you can also lose flight by operating a roller switch. You can also lose flight if a TK grabs you with its psychic attack, but interestingly, wild TKs refuse to attack you if you're on a flying titan, so it isn't anything to worry about. If you try to cheese the timing of the swapping by spamming the swap button with two titans in your possession, you're in for a surprise. Instead of getting a titan that can gracefully soar to the skies, you end up with one that is heavier than a rock. I like to call this glitch the Ice Statue Titan glitch. While a titan is in this state, it is completely invincible and unjackable, and can only be moved by pushing it around. Funnily enough, if you do push the titan around, it's going to continuously accelerate in whatever direction it's going towards until it hits a wall. So call a friend and play some hockey with it. If you try to rope rematch a flying titan, they will get stuck in a fallen animation in midair and behave similarly to an ice statue titan when pushed around. However, if you attack it or jump on its head, it's going to be jackable again, and it still won't lose its flight. The developers must have been working overtime to make this glitch so hard to get rid of. To practice the timing for this glitch, there are two areas with infinite cutscenes that I recommend, which are this bridge right before the Reticle Kingdom, and this rotation puzzle right after the Crunch boss fight. Dropout glitch. Sometimes this game, just like any other, can start feeling a bit unfair. Fights get too overwhelming and you end up taking a ton of damage you could have avoided. So, if you're having trouble fighting certain titans, keeping up your combo meter, or defeating a certain boss, then this glitch was made just for you. Make sure there are 2 players on screen. As the second player, press the jack button to turn yourself into a mask. Right after the little arrow indicating the player's location disappears from player's 2 head, pause the game with player 1 and then hit dropout. And you've done it! Pretty easy, right? If you can control player 1 despite his portrait being gone, then you know you've done the glitch correctly. Although everything may seem normal at first, other than player 1's portrait being gone, you have just put Crash into a glitch state which boasts several interesting properties. The first of which is, while in this state, Crash is invincible to all forms of damage. Neither minions, toxic sludge, nor titans can lay a single dent on him. Aku Aku is also affected severely by this glitch. While glitched, you will not be able to summon stored titans, since Aku Aku will simply absorb them. This also means you can't jack new titans either, so be careful not to delete a titan you really need to use. As you may have already noticed, Crash's combo meter is still going up despite his glitch state, which means you can use this glitch to easily rack up a massive combo and level up a whole lot without fear of losing your multiplier. Those challenge arenas don't seem that tough now, do they? Only 2 titans can't be avoided by Aku Aku, which are the boss titans. If you try to void crunch, he'll simply start spinning around uncontrollably, while you end up unable to move, soft locking the game. And if you try to void Cortex, Crash will simply slip off his head and be unable to control him. Crash is also incapable of triggering cutscenes or scene transitions while in this state, with the added bonus of having the camera on him instead of how the previous iteration of Cutscene Crasher has to be performed. This can be used to your advantage to skip over some cutscenes as a way to speed up your game progression, as shown here. Crash also does not interact with certain in-game objects, such as these sinking ice platforms, which can make traversing some terrain a hell of a lot easier. Now here's the one everyone's been waiting for, the Giga Jump, or Moon Jump. Perform the dropout glitch normally, and then press the jack button on the second controller to get out of mask form. You'll notice that player 2 will jump a lot higher than usual, while the glitched player will simply disappear. This is already pretty cool on its own, but what if I told you that there's a way to do it much better? If you start spamming the jack button with both controllers after you perform the dropout glitch, you'll find that your characters will start boosting each other up, skyrocketing to insane heights you could only achieve with a flying titan. But be careful, this trick is really hard to control, so you could very easily end up falling to your death, as I did here. This glitch can be used to skip massive portions of the game, and it can actually be abused as soon as you start it. You can skip the metal wall to the left of Crash's house after leaving it for the first time, which will net you a reticle without collecting a single one of Coco's parts. By using the Giga Jump, along with Crash's cutscenes bypassing properties, you can even skip the first reticle battle altogether. Sorry buddy, but my controlling is for chumps. Crash doesn't do any of that. Unlike a certain Italian pumper who ripped off a certain other game and got praised for originality for it. It can even be used to bypass this big metal gate blocking the junkyard from the desert, saving you a lot of backtracking to Nina's school. I honestly got so confused at this gate when I was a kid, and I had no idea I had to backtrack, so I spent months trying to open it without going to Nina's school. If only I knew it was as simple as just jumping over it. Crunch out of bounds. This glitch is my favorite one in the entire game, and I haven't seen a single person on YouTube, or anywhere else for that matter, cover it, so I think this is gonna be a first. To perform this glitch, you need to keep the player which doesn't have the camera on him, which is Carbon in this case, outside of Crunch's arena, while the other one goes inside. Carbon can stay in any of these 3 tiles without fear of being turned into a mask. I choose to stay in the furthermost tile for safety. After player 2 is properly positioned, start the battle, and fight Crunch normally until you can jack him. After you're able to jack Crunch, guide him over to a position in which player 2 can see him and get off his back.
To defeat him, Crash. Try to jack him when you get the chance.
That was so bad, you can see us on the Richter scale.
Then, place Crash as close as possible to Carbon and then move Carbon over to Crash without crossing the purple flames. After the symbol pointing at Carbon appears above his head, turn Crash into a mask and walk away from the flames. Spawn Crash back in and jack Crunch once more. Now, this is the most crucial step. Walk with Crunch over to the right side as much as you possibly can so that he's just out of frame, and walk with Carbon all the way outside of the arena. Jump as much as you can to the left side of this sludge pool, and then drop out with Carbon's controller. If you've done everything right, then BOOM! Crunch will teleport to Carbon's previous location, getting him outside of his arena. Sadly, you can't simply walk out of the arena's boundaries, since there's a failsafe which freezes Crunch when he reaches a boundary. So, that means our adventure with Crunch ends here, with him unable to go outside of his arena. Except it doesn't. If you instead leave Crunch jacked by either player and then save the game, something very interesting will happen. After you save, simply quit and rejoin the game and... wait for it... boom! Crunch is outside of the arena and fully controllable.
Tall, beautiful, and strong.
But what if I told you that we could still do better? If you leave Crunch in player's 2 possession and then save the game with player 1 while you're already jacking another Titan, then something even more interesting will happen. That's right, you're able to pocket Crunch.
Talk to that guy, Crash. See what he knows.
Now that Crunch is free from his arena, it's time to go exploring with him.
That was so bad, you can see us on the Richter scale.
Except you can't. If you try to cross the scene transition while controlling Crunch, you'll simply end up soft-locked, unable to move or do anything other than restarting the game. Not even dropping out fixes the issue. Thankfully, the solution to your problem is to simply store him and then summon him in the next area. Right? Not quite. If you summon Crunch after a scene transition, he'll simply disappear, leaving behind nothing but his invisible hitboxes and glowing effect on his arm. So, sadly, this means that this glitch is a bust. Well, again, not quite. If you keep Crunch stored with you and then save, quit, and rejoin the game, then you will be able to spawn Crunch outside of the area you find him in, fully playable. You can actually go pretty far with Crunch, walking all the way to Mount Grimly and back. However, as far as I'm aware, this is as far as you can go. If you try to enter Mount Grimly with Crunch, the game will crash, making you unable to go any further with our lovable Mr. T knockoff. And no, even if you have him stored, you can't go in. Thus ends the adventure of our Crunch. He shall be missed. And that's the end of it. These are all the most interesting glitches that I could find. So, what did you think of the video? Is there any other fun glitch you know of that I missed, or something I forgot to say? Tell me in the comments below. I hope you found this guide useful. Até mais! Tchau, tchau!